Welcome to PsychicBent. My name is Carrie.
And I'm Kim. We are two sisters wanting to help other psychics learn and grow in their abilities and to help educate about spirits, angels, and everything psychic. Welcome back, everyone, to Psychic Bent. Thank you so much for allowing Carrie and I to re-air our two most favorite episodes in the past couple of episodes. It's been an extremely busy summer for us both, and it allowed us to be able to focus on what it was we needed to get done. So I wanted to thank everyone for letting us do that.
Well, they didn't have much of a choice.
Well, no, they really didn't, but there could have been complaints. But anyway, this week I'll let Carrie talk about how she came up with the subject matter and go on from there. We get our ideas when they pop into our heads or when they pop in on the screen. We've talked about that before, how the subjects just pop in and we go, oh, this is what we should be talking about. And that's what happened with this one. I had to really do some thinking on this one, though. So with this one, as I understand it, and as I took the assignment to be, is we make our choices in life. And why is it that we do that? And I don't know. It's kind of like how things are just, you stumble along until you finally get the message that you're doing the right thing. Is that how you took the assignment, Carrie, or what's your...
Well, I think that, we get pushed onto paths that we're supposed to be on, or removed off paths that we're not supposed to be on. And while it's happening, I don't believe we fully understand that Spirit is putting you on the right path, and that roadblocks are being set up. And it's kind of, I thought it was a good exercise to kind of go back and think of times where, especially before you realized you're psychic, and before you realized the choices you've made and how they bring you to where you need to be.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I just thought it would be a good exercise to kind of go back and look back at areas and situations in your life where roadblocks were put up, or you had that spidey sense that was strong telling you to quit a job that it got so that it became so unbearable that you just couldn't take it. And I'm not talking about petty things that happen at work, but where you just have that overwhelming I just gotta quit kind of situations. And I don't know if anybody's ever had that other than me, but it's just an example. Or you're driving down the road and you're like, oh, I can't go my normal route. I can't turn right here. I have to go straight and go farther down and take a little longer to get to where I'm going, but I just can't do it. Those type of situations.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
It does. So take us on that journey.
Okay. Well, I just thought that, if we go back, and this is an assignment for everyone, you don't have to tell us you did it or not, but I think it's for personal growth and actually seeing how far you've come in life. And I think that's always very important to acknowledge when you have these wins and when you've had growth, and when you've made a decision and everything fell into place. Because if you make a decision and everything falls into place, then that's your path you're supposed to be on at that point in your life, correct?
Yes, I would agree with that, unless you are experiencing something that you chose to experience from a past life episode.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. But it's still your path. It's not that everything falls into place positively. It could be that is a challenge that you, or a circumstance that you wanted to experience in your life contract.
But it's hard to go through a life contract on this episode.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying,
Okay.
sometimes your choices are to get you to the path that you wanted to experience in the life contract type thing. And that may not be a positive thing that you wanted to experience.
Well, a lot of these at the time that they're happening aren't positive at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it. I think we've all like a situation where this happened to me working in the jewelry industry. I was a lot younger And these are situations I'm giving you that happened before I started working on my abilities, before I even fully acknowledge, okay, yes, I'm psychic.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we're talking so far deep in the closet that there's no light shining from the door. Because this is where you're basically manifesting and following spirit and not really realizing what you're doing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So like, this particular example had been working for this jewelry company for a while, and then all of a sudden new regional manager shows up. Now it becomes unbearable. And it was just every time I turned around, I mean, it was one of these situations, and we're talking back in the day where female managers didn't make the same amount of pay as male managers did.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the glass ceiling, and I had a regional manager that didn't like female managers. And so he could be calling and, just nothing you could do was right type scenario.
Right.
And it was just one of those where it's just like, I just one day just got so frustrated. And I just said, you know what? I just really feel I need to quit. Now, there's a difference between ego getting involved and I'm right, you're wrong, so I quit, versus it's so oppressive. You can't bear to feel that oppressive feeling any longer. If you've ever experienced anything like Kim, you just got that oppressive, like I just got to leave, or I just got to quit, or I just got to move, kind of thing.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. And so when it happens, it is quite unbearable. And to me, that is what spirit does to get you to move from one situation, to remove yourself from that situation. And and it's not, and it makes you feel uncomfortable. But it was just got so unbearable that I quit. I didn't start looking for a job before I quit. I didn't know I was going to go to work that day and quit. But it was so unbearable, the feeling oppressing on me, that I had to do it. Now, the husband at the time was not happy with that, because, we have bills to pay. And he knew what I was going through at work. And again, it was kind of like he was a manager, so he was a male manager at a different retail environment. And so he couldn't understand what I was going through, so there was no empathy. But it just was like, I couldn't take it. So I quit. And it's like the next, I don't know, it's been so long ago, I couldn't tell you how quickly after this, it could be a couple days, I was like, I'm going to go to the mall. And I was like, what mall? And who goes to the mall shopping when they just quit their job? It's not something.
There are a lot of people that do that.
Oh, well, I was just kind of like, well, I'm just going to walk around, maybe kind of, I just thought, well, if I just walk around, get perspective, just kind of get out of the house, just get away, go to a different mall, not the one I was working in. So for some reason, I picked the mall the farthest away from my home, which was probably about an hour and 15-minute drive, because you're talking city traffic. And so I thought, okay, I wasn't familiar with this mall. I don't think I've ever been in that mall. So I went all the way to this mall and got out, and I went and got me a coffee, and I thought, well, I'll just walk around, and there's this jewelry store that, I've never really heard of that jewelry store before. They'd been around for a long time. It's just not not one I had actually, worked for or heard about. So I just walk in. I'm like, everybody wants their rings clean. And when, managing a jewelry store, my rings were clean all the time because I had all the equipment there to do it. So
Right.
I just walk up to the jewelry counter, and there's this nice lady there, and she greeted me, welcomed me in, and I said, I see you're with a customer, but when you have a moment, would you mind cleaning my ring? She said, oh, not at all. She took my ring and she inspected it, and she put the jewelry cleaner. Then she walked off to finish helping these guests. So now she had a hostage. I couldn't leave, So I'm like, okay, I know this trick, because that's how it is. Get you to look around. Maybe you find something. Like, all right, she knows what she's doing, kind of thing. But I'm not buying anything because I don't have a job. So she comes back and she's cleaning my ring and she's talking to me, and she's just, so what do you do? And I'm thinking that's a weird question to just ask someone that you're just talking to over a jewelry cleaner. And I just, well, I managed a jewelry store in this mall. And she goes, oh, which one? And I just told her. She said, oh, okay, And, so she told me what her name, she told me her first name, and it was Anita. And she's like, would you like to go down to the food court and I'll buy you another cup of coffee? And I'm like, well, I don't need another cup of coffee because you don't want Carrie to have too much coffee. It's not pretty. Not pretty at all.
It's not.
It's
It's
not.
really not.
She won't shut up. She starts talking fast. It's not a good deal. And I'm like, well, I already have a cup of coffee. She goes, well, just come on down and I'll get a cup of coffee and we'll talk. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, what's up with this lady? I'm being polite. I'm like, okay, well, it's food court. It's open air. We sit down. She got her coffee. We sit down. And she introduced herself. She was the regional vice president for this particular company. And I'm like, oh. We sat there and talked. She basically hired me on the spot without me filling out the application. Everything was pending background check.
Mm-hmm.
And if for a manager position, she had to go through the process of what the money offer would be. And I said, well, if it's below this amount, and of course I went higher than what I was making. I'm like, if it's below this amount, we can't work. I'm thinking I'd take anything above what I was making, but you got to play the game. And she's like, okay, well, she took me back to the store. She gave me the application. I filled it out, gave it to her, she sent it in. And then she's like, oh, well, I guess I should have you meet the regional manager. And I said, okay. And she goes, but he's on vacation. So don't worry about it. It'll be fine. I'm like, okay. So I get a call a couple of days later. She makes me an offer that's much more than I was making at the other store. And she hired me as a manager. She goes, but the problem is I don't have a store for you now. So I'm just going to have you help out in all the stores until a store comes available. And I'm like, wait a minute. You're hiring me at a manager pay with no store. And she's like, yeah. She goes, I'll have you probably help out in this store a lot because they're shorthanded at the moment. And then you can kind of learn this company's way of doing things because this manager's really, really good. And I'm like, okay. And yeah, they hired me with no store available, making more money than I was, and she was a female regional vice president, so she welcomed women.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And it was a totally different vibe. Now, Anita had came into my life on several different occasions during my career with this company, where she has Spirit really used her in different ways, and that was just one of those situations where I stepped into something a lot better, listening and taking hold of that feeling I had and not being, okay, this feeling needs to go away because I have to go look for a job and no one really is comfortable looking for a job and leaving what they know they have because the unknown,
Right.
like opening your psychic abilities, is scary.
Mm-hmm.
But if I didn't give in to that oppression that I was having that was forcing me to quit, I never would have started with this particular company. And this particular company I was with for a very long time with my career kept growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, that's really cool. That shows that spirit does move you in a way whenever whenever it's definitely time for you to make that change or to put, like you said, make that course correction. Because were you done with your story? I didn't want to just pop in and take over. Okay.
Pop in, pop away.
Okay. Didn't want to be rude there. But I believe that these kinds of things they always happen for a reason. And I've said that anytime something happens and I'm like, why did that happen? Why? Why is this going on? Why? I'm just trying to live my life and do this or whatever. And then I've personally have gone to the point to where, well, this is happening for a reason. Let's listen to it and see what that reason is. Find out what that reason is. Why am I being drawn this way? And I always find that, the pathway, your road is clearer whenever you start following that pathway or that direction. I have been extremely stubborn in trying and not listening to that lesson as I've gone through life.
Sorry. But you have. But we all
Very
have. We all
stubborn.
have at some point,
Yeah, Yeah,
Some
but
more than others.
yeah, it's really been a trying time through different situations that I've had. That why I question now, why do I fight it? Just follow it instead of fighting it, you know?
Hmm. So what'd you come up with on
Yeah.
that?
Well, I realize that a lot of the times when this pathway is happening, or whenever this you're getting these messages that it is towards the development of your abilities and where you should be going in your life. And one of the ones that I have had experiences with or exposure to is dealing with, coping with being exposed to death of very close people, very close friends that I've had. And I think that to experience that, it's helping me to deal with the fact that, look, I am a psychic and I need to be prepared to communicate with people that have passed. Does that make sense? Is you know what I'm saying? Because as a young child, I had a very best friend that she had a lot of health issues. She was always missing out on doing a lot of recess and stuff like that. That she had a lot of allergies. She had, I think it was, what's that lung condition with, is that cystic fibrosis, maybe? Anyway, I can't remember because we met in kindergarten and we were good friends through, I think it was second grade. And a lot of other kids wouldn't even play with her. They wouldn't even go near her because she had to have tracheotomies. A lot of times when she would be hospitalized, she'd be gone for 2 or 3, 4 weeks at a time. So this was something that I was her friend. I was there with her whenever she needed someone to talk to, when no one would sit with her at lunch. She was just my best friend. And
Well, that was definitely the empath in you.
yes,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah. And not knowing, of course, being so
right.
young, not
Yeah,
knowing that's what
yeah.
was happening. And just we did everything together. Now she couldn't come over for sleepovers because she had medical conditions, or medical needs. So I had been to her house before, spending the night. But yeah, just one summer, Mom showed me an article in the paper, and it was her obituary, and told me about it and said that she had passed. And I was she visited me at that point in time when that night I dreamt about her, not knowing that that was a visitation from her. Same thing happened with Grandpa when he passed, and he came out of the closet to visit after he passed. But you know, when that happened, that kind of made me close myself off to friends, to really get close to friends
Well, that was a
because I was so
trauma.
young when that happened. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a
that was
trauma
that was
thing.
quite the trauma.
Yeah, and I didn't really like the visit at that point in time. So I fought it. I think that's whenever I really started to try to push some of that stuff away, was because I was trying to fight not being exposed to that, because it kind of hurt. Probably because I could have used therapy, but could have used a counselor at that point in time, you know.
That was not a
So,
thing back in the day.
I know, I know it wasn't, but anyway, I think I that's when I really started to gradually close that off, because whenever people would pass, I didn't really want to get I didn't feel like I could go to those funerals or the visitations, the nursing homes. That just really troubled me in those areas, and I kept pushing back against those things, even though I was being exposed to those things. And then my best friend, who was my maid of honor, she had passed. Oh, I don't know how many years ago, probably about 15 years ago. And I never knew she was even in the hospital. I had kind of, not moved past the friendship, but kind of like I knew something was going on, and I shut myself off from it instead of being there for her. So, it's a very uncomfortable feeling, but once she passed, I was like, I sure wish I could talk to her again and see how she's doing. So I think that by certain people, as I've been exposed to more and more to deaths, I've been coming to gradually realize that it's okay to follow this path where you may have contact, and it's okay to have contact with people that have passed on, and encouraging me to develop my psychic abilities. Because I do, that's where I get my visitations. And if I block them out of my dreams, if I'm blocking them, that's not the path that's chosen for me. That's not the path I should be on. And I think the physically going to the funeral home, physically whatever, that's why I'm feeling uncomfortable, because I could do this outside of that arena. Does that make sense?
So why are you not wanting to be on the path you're supposed to be on?
Well, I'm getting on that path I'm supposed to be on.
Slowly
But
she
it,
moves.
yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
sloth,
I,
sloth-like speed.
yeah. Well, some of us aren't willing to accept and maybe more comfortable in being uncomfortable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you're so used to feeling the uncomfortable thing,
Well, it's just like why you don't look for another job. You're used to that
Mm-hmm.
environment. You don't know what's out there. You don't know what you're encounter.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though you're miserable, you're still going to stay there because what's out there is the unknown and it's scary.
Right. And who knew, or other people probably did, but I didn't know that the reason why I don't feel comfortable going into the funeral homes, the hospitals, the whatever places like that, nursing homes, anything like that, is I was being felt uncomfortable because I was most likely having contact with people, that had passed on,
That you weren't
and I
willing
didn't
to,
want that,
yeah.
that I wasn't willing to experience. I don't know why I fight it so much, but you're in a marriage. I was in a marriage. It was bad. It got worse. It got worse. Why didn't I leave it sooner? And then it just took that one time. Well, okay, it's over. That one situation where you come home and they're gone. You had no clue. You just have, that's forced you to move on. Why did that happen? Why did it happen that way?
Yeah.
Probably because I wouldn't have faced it that way and
Right.
taken the message from spirit to move on. So they
You
had to
wouldn't have
just
left.
slam it into my,
Yeah.
you're right, wouldn't have left.
You
And they
wouldn't have
had
left.
to hit me in the head with that board. Spirit that has to hit me in the head with the board.
Yes. Well, I think it happens to a lot of people. We've all had that situation where, like, ow, okay, that hurt, and then once we get past the pain and something else wonderful unfolds, and you're like, you forgot about that pain, because
Right.
and I think it's why sometimes it's best to go back and look and see, how you're doing on that journey. And sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
some of the things we go through come out the other side where we're supposed to be and don't give ourselves enough. Wow, you went through a lot and look at you now.
Right.
Whether it's your psychic development, or you just went through a horrible crisis, whatever it is. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
always healthy to go back, not to dwell on the bad, but to go back, acknowledge that happened, acknowledge, yes, that hurt, but also look where you're at today and how much better off you are.
Right. And you get it this for I myself, I was in this relationship. It went bad, and it brought me to another relationship that got worse. And then it brought me eventually to a relationship that I've been in for, 40 years or so.
Yeah.
However long it's been. But those are all life lessons you have to learn. Those were, I believe that one was put in, this first one was put in to learn a specific lesson, and then to the next one, and then to the next one. I'm sorry, I'm not going to share those lessons. But I mean,
I'm not
but
asking
that's
you
what I
to.
believe. Yeah. because those are the real personal ones.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you go through that experience a second or a third time because you did not learn from the first time.
Or there was just a little bit more you had to learn, but
Yeah,
couldn't learn that with that first one.
right.
You know,
Because that person needed to get removed.
right,
Needed to
right.
be
And
removed.
and then to learn those lessons, it was preparing you for what it is you're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
You know, whatever that is. You know, and I really believe that, and I've had more personally. I get more of those feelings that you were talking about, like the avoidance thing, when I actually meet people and try to become friends with, expanding my friend group or whatever. And there's just people that I just can't, I try, and it gets to the point to where these people aren't people I need to be around.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's the psychic empath feeling, but you do get a feeling of that dread if that person is, you've had them in your life for like 5 years, let's say, and it just feels bad after a while. It just feels off, feels wrong. You shouldn't be in the vicinity of this person anymore or contact with this person, and you just cut off that friendship. Not ghosting, but you're done.
Yeah.
And you move on.
Well, you
I
set a
I believe
boundary.
that happens too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I've had some people that I've had horrible, horrible acquaintanceship with that. Well, one of them, I was afraid that I was going to get hurt with it, that they were going to hurt me. So
Mm-hmm.
physically, and I was like, yeah, this is not the place to be with this person and not
No.
have this person in my life, and just immediately cut that off because that got bad. But then I've moved on and found better people to be around.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. Funny story. How I met my psychic friend Andrea, who does my psychic readings for me. I was doing that paranormal convention, and it was my first time doing it. I was a bit nervous, and Julie was doing it too. She was doing psychic readings, and I was, still at the stage of being in the closet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was making jewelry and I was doing it intuitively. My thing was I let the wire do what it wants to do, which is basically I'm intuitively making the jewelry, But I didn't have a name
Yes.
for it. I didn't have a name for it. I just kind of labeled it with what the wire's going to do, what the wire's going to do. I might as well just let it.
Right.
And Andrea had her little, she was doing Reiki, like 20-minute readings, 20-minute Reiki, that kind of thing. And she was kind of at an angle down from us. And, it's kind of like I kept looking up, and she just got that great energy vibe that, you know, she was just shooting off wonderful energy. And I keep looking, I'm like, okay, gosh, man. Because at these shows, you get all kinds of energy, which you've experienced that yourself, Kim.
Oh, yeah.
You weren't able to attend this last show, but the show before, we were right across from, some dark energy.
Yes.
And I was kind of at a crossroads, personal relationship wise, starting to kind of get into what the stones mean and everything. And I was really believing in that path, which I still do today, and which of course leads you to other paths. But I was still kind of unsure of the unknown, because that's how we are when we're first starting out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
and here I am now at a or a paranormal convention with a whole lot of different kind of energy from all different sides. That wasn't as bad as it was the year before last, but people are excited to be at these shows and stuff. And she comes over and she's looking at my jewelry. She's got this very unique psychic protection necklace. It's very big and it's very unique. And I'm talking to her, and I said, I was asking her about her psychic protected necklace, and she's telling me about it. And all of a sudden, it falls off her neck.
Oh.
It just plop. She goes, "Oh my gosh!" And I went, "All right, what happened?" And she goes, "My chain just broke." And it landed on my table, and I said, "Well, I happen to have where I could make her a new chain. I had the material to make chains."
Right.
And I said, "Would you like me to make you a new chain?" And she said, "Well, yeah." And so I do that, and we're talking, and she's like, and the only psychic experience I've ever had was with Julie.
Mm-hmm.
where you can't do a reading on your family member because you're too close.
Right.
You could never read anybody too close. I had never really so truly experienced a psychic reading. So, I mean, I've seen Julie give readings, but they're private, so it's not like I'm close, that I can hear what's going on, because it's private. And so I'm not trying to like eavesdrop or anything. And so this happened, and we're talking, and she goes, and she just like, okay, well, your grandmother, and she's got 2 sisters with her, and they're really, really talking. And I'm like, oh, yeah. She goes, no, I mean, they're really talking. Like, all 3 are talking at the same time about different things. I said, oh, yeah, that would be correct, because that's how they were in life. I was like, wow, yeah, that's how they were.
Yep.
And, I have a particular song that I really like, and she's, that I would sing in the car kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, and they keep singing this song, and that was the song. And I'm like, wow, she's good. I didn't know I didn't know what else to say that, wow, she's good. I'm like, and I'm still not sure about this whole psychic reading thing, even though I'm starting to, get on board with the psychic thing. And so I just like, well, if you have time, can I have a reading? She goes, yeah, let's do it now. And I'm like, all right, and I go over there, and we've talked about before that all psychics do things differently.
Right.
My kind of reading would be different than Julie's reading, because we're different people. We have different abilities. We see different things.
Right.
So it's very possible to have 3 psychics in the same room with one person, and they all 3 come up with something different, but it doesn't mean it's wrong.
True.
I'm saying it could still be true for that one individual. And so I sit down, and first thing she keeps looking over my left shoulder, and I'm like, okay. She's like, so you have a mischievous thing that has attached itself to you, kind of like a teenager kind of mentality, very mischievous. And I'm like, well, get it off. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And she goes, well, I can ask. She goes, would you like me to remove it? I went, yeah. I'm like, and that's, getting that kind of news is, I mean, that is not what you want to hear,
Right. It's a little disturbing.
a little disturbing. And she goes, okay. And then she goes, all right, it's gone. It's gone. And I said, okay. I'm like, wow, that was really, and I'm trying to like digest what she's telling me, but okay, Kim, hey, by the way, you have a negative entity attached to you. Do you want me to remove it? What's your first thought?
Yes, and I figured. No.
Like, what?
No, I'd be shocked.
And I mean, yeah. Well, when you go looking back, if you get a negative attachment, that thing is causing problems in your life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Relationships don't work out. It's just, and it can happen when you're at a low period and you're not aware that you have an attachment.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's normally how it is. You're not, it's not like they introduce themselves. Hello, I'm Johnny Attachment. I'll be joining you from now on. You don't get that, and but like I said, I'm still new to this whole psychic reading thing. And I said, okay, well, so she just said she made it leave. I didn't feel anything. So I'm like, all right, okay. I'm not 100% convinced, but I want to believe it.
Right.
And she talks about some different things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's really spot on this stuff, And so I paid her for the reading and everything, and when we got finished for the day, and I went back to staying at Julie's house for this particular trip, and I stumbled down the basement steps, and I'm like, what the heck? Now, just having preface this, it was not uncommon growing up for one of us to be falling down the steps, because you know how carpet is on old steps. We were always falling down the steps.
Yep, always.
Not getting injured, but we were always falling down the steps. So it's like, okay. And then I just kind of felt off. Just off. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with this? I thought, okay. Yeah. And at this point, that releasing energy thing had never come into play. Nothing about, protection like you should. I mean, because she was telling me about her psychic protection necklace, and that was getting my attention. And so I go in the next morning, And I told her, I said, you said you removed that thing. And she goes, yeah. Is it gone? And she goes, well, yeah. I said, well, last night I was stumbling around, tripping over things, fell down the stairs. And she goes, well, you carried it for so long that your equilibrium was messed up. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I never would have thought of it, but it made sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
And she told me how long I'd have it. And, looking back at, all the crash and burn type relationships and everything, it made perfect sense that this thing was causing problems in my life.
Yeah.
But if she hadn't come over to the table and her pendant hadn't fallen off and hit my table, and then because I had to pick up her pendant now to get the chain to go on it.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm getting like this energy off her, and then to find out I had this negative entity, which made perfect sense, but at the time was a little like, what? A little scary.
Yeah.
And then, there were some things in my life that she talked about. I mean, if she had never come over, I never would have gone to her for a reading.
Right. True.
I just would have been like, well, okay, there's another one of those psychic people giving readings. Interesting, kind of thing. But it was funny. The next day she came over, she goes, they're still singing. They won't stop talking. I was like, I'm so sorry.
That's just who they were.
Yeah. But I mean, that's one situation where Spirit brought her to my table. Her pendant picked the perfect time to jump off her deck, and I happened to be able to fix or get her a new chain.
Mm-hmm.
So everything was lining up.
Right.
And, after Mom passed, and, I waited a few months, because you should never get a psychic reading when you're that emotional right after somebody passes, and because you're just not in a state of mind to hear what needs to be said,
Right, exactly.
And sometimes loved ones don't come through.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're so stuck in your grief and that person doesn't come through, I mean, psychologically, it's not just a good thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got nothing to do with you.
Well, and when you're stuck in that grief, you're not going to hear them anyway.
Yes, you're not going to hear what you want to hear.
Right.
I mean, you want to hear what you want to hear, but that's not what you're going to hear.
Right.
You're going to hear what they want to tell you.
Exactly.
And I'm sure I've shared this before in the podcast, where I had basically messaged Andrea through her Facebook business page, not personal, to set up a over-the-phone reading, because she lives in another state. So it's not, I can't just, hey, I'm going to come over Friday, let's do this. So we arrange everything, and, we're going to do it over the phone. And I mean, I don't know about this over the phone readings. You got to be, I mean, I haven't done it. Well, I have done it, but casually, not realizing I was doing it, I guess.
Right.
Would be, but to sit down and formally do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would probably, you'll get that whole frozen, oh, what if it doesn't work? Oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
So I went ahead and, because I did want to see if Mom had anything to communicate. But in the past, anytime, because anytime I see Andrea at the shows, I would get a reading. And so we're talking about, for a while there, it was once a year, and then she quit doing the shows because of the dark energy, and then she was back this year. So I was able to get a reading from her. But I set it up through her professional Facebook page. And so, the allotted time came, and I asked, do you mind if I record this session? If you're on speakerphone, so hopefully that doesn't, because sometimes speakerphone, when you're talking to someone like on Zoom and stuff, that you could get bad reception.
Yes. Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure she was okay with that. She's like, yeah, that's fine. And, and she starts talking to me, and she just stops, and she's like, when I do these sessions, I can see who I'm talking to. Now we're just doing a Zoom with no video.
Right. No
It's
camera.
just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And she goes, so she psychically sees the person. And she goes, I can't see you. And I went, oh, weird. Because I thought she had to take that. I'm like, and she goes, I can't see you. She goes, oh, I know you. And I went, you do. She goes, don't say anything. Don't say anymore. I don't want to know how I know you yet. Let's do the reading, and then we'll circle back. And I'm like, okay. And she didn't want any more information, because again, what would have happened could have influenced the reading.
Right. Exactly.
And so I, we had, the reading, and Mom came through and everything and stuff. And then she's like, okay, who are you? And I told her, she's like, oh my gosh, but it's just how things work out.
Mm-hmm.
And I never would have met Andrea if Spirit hadn't put anything into place, and she's helped me tremendously.
Yeah.
Even not giving me, like I'm not even getting a formal reading. I'm just talking to her at the paranormal convention. And she'll be like looking at me. She's like, this last time, she's like, what's wrong with your hip? I said, oh, I got sciatic issues in my left hip. She goes, no, this is your right hip. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm overcompensating for my left hip. I don't know. She goes, that's my, yeah. And a little bit later, I put, you put your hands on your hips, and you just got, and I hit this tender spot on the right side of my hip. And I'm like, dang it, Andrea. It's like, there's a,
Yeah.
But it's how people get brought into our lives too.
Mm-hmm.
As part of the path.
Right.
That, I could have easily just went, oh my gosh, yeah, your necklace broke. That's a shame.
True.
I could have just sold her a chain. Here you go.
Yeah.
And she could have just walked on and said, don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
But there was that spirit connection.
Mm-hmm.
Where, she was helping me on my path without me realizing that's what she was doing.
Yeah. I kind of look at the car accident that Katrina and I were in as the same type of thing, because on that whole trip, from when we picked up the rental car all the way until the accident, and there being that guardian angel in the car with us, I never would have
that everybody saw but you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
I never would have I always thought there were guardian angels, I believed in them, but I never thought that I had one.
You'd have one?
Yeah, that I had one actually there looking out for me. You know what I mean? Or looking out for her too. So by all the different direction changes that the GPS was taking us on, all the choices that we were making was guiding us away from the way we would have normally have done the trip, done everything. And it got us there at the particular time and place for that accident. And everybody saw that third person in our car, that we didn't have a third person in there, and that really opened my eyes up more to that. That I don't know, I think I didn't really realize that, honestly. You can say in your head, I believe in that, but do you really believe in it? And I think that was my moment of, hello, wake up. We are here. We are helping you. Listen.
What more do I need to do to show you?
Right.
What do you want?
Exactly.
Here's a board. Let me smack you on the head.
Exactly. I have a lot of those moments in my past that I don't know that I have enough time to sit there and write them all down.
Well, we all do that. Who just quits their job?
Right.
Just because because of that feeling you're getting at that moment, Because shoot, I love the job I have now, but there's times I'm like, I don't like you people.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to quit my job. It's like I'm not quitting my job over it. Because that's silly.
Yeah.
But it's a different feel, environment, pressure.
Yes.
It's when you're supposed to leave. But when it happens is when it really hurts and it's unexpected. Like, okay, the pressure to me to quit.
Mm-hmm.
That was on my terms, even though that's what Spirit wanted. But the same company.
Yeah.
Working for Anita and managing one of her high volume stores. Finally got a store of my own, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm making a mark in my region. I became the training manager then in a new store. And then I also became the cleanup manager. Like, I started picking the stores that were doing well, not doing well, tracking their numbers, watching what they're doing wrong. And then I'd ask for that store. Mm-hmm. And I'd turn the store around.
Right.
So I was making it, because I wanted to move up in the company, and I figured that would be the best way to do it. And so, I'm just trucking along, and I didn't just pick any old store. I was looking over the numbers and everything. And so I was her go-to person. She needs something done, because I was in St. Louis and she lived in Chicago. And so if she needed me to go to a store and help out with an event or anything, because she couldn't come, that's what I'd do. If the regional manager couldn't do it, I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had a regional manager whose wife had been a top salesperson in another region, and they relocated. This was his first regional manager position, and he just didn't do well. She gave me every opportunity, and finally she had to let him go, but we still had the wife,
Mm-hmm. Right.
who unfortunately worked in my store.
Oh, yeah.
Very, yeah, very high maintenance. Expected people to give her half the sale when she did nothing. And it was kind of like, no, that's not how we do it here. That might be how they did it in Chicago, because that's where she came from. It's like, no, no, no. If you want part of that sale, you have to earn it.
Yep.
We all have goals. And so, I mean, I was constantly, she did not care for my method of managing, obviously, because she didn't get her way.
Right. It wasn't
Because it's,
positive for her.
yeah,
So
we're going to, right, yeah. And, Anita hired, was looking for a new regional manager. She was overlooking me for the position. And so it got posted outside. I was a little upset over that, because that's ego.
yeah, that was ego.
Ego's
Yeah.
like, well, you got me doing all this stuff for you, kind of thing. Pure ego. And, you don't think I could run I'm already here kind of thing. Well, in this course of things, she developed breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so she had hired a new regional manager, but she had to go into treatment. It was she was, I think, stage 3 when they found it. They had to remove her lymph nodes. They had to, be very aggressive treating this breast cancer. She's out of the picture, and so I was asked to pick him up from the airport, take him to his hotel, show him the region, do all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I pick him up at the airport, and I'm like, would you like to check in now or just go ahead and do the store visits? What would you like to do? Well, let's get lunch. I'm like, okay. So the first mall we're going to go to, they had a restaurant, and we go into the restaurant. This restaurant served alcohol, and he ordered himself a cocktail. And he's like, you want one? I said, no, I'm eventually going to be back at my store after I, drop you off. And he just kept pushing, don't you want to drink? Don't you want to drink? And I'm like, no, I'm good. And I'm thinking, you're on the clock, dude. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And the spidey senses were going ding, 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 ding. And I'm just kind of like, this guy's, I don't know. Okay, Anita picked him. Not going to judge him.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. So we have lunch, and he's, talking about everything but business. Everything but business. And so I take him. We go to the store. We introduce everybody. He walks around. We go to the next store. We can't do the entire region in one day because everything's so spread out.
Right.
So I think we did like 3 stores, and he's like, okay, yeah, I want you to take me back to, take me to the hotel. I said, okay. So I take him to the hotel, and, he goes, are you going to come in? And I went, no, waiting for you at the front desk, kind of thing. Like, I was caught off guard. Are you going to come in? Why would I come in? He
Yep.
had 2 bags. It looked like he was capable of carrying his bags on his own. And I'm like, no, I'm good. And so then it became, whenever he'd come to my store, he'd want to go have lunch. Let's go have lunch. You sure you don't want to drink? And I'm just like, no, I'm good. Because to me, that's highly unprofessional.
Very inappropriate.
Yes. And then he'd start showing up while I'm working, because I had to work like 2 12-hour days. So he'd finish his store visits, and he'd come to my store. And I was, I was wearing a skirt that had a little slit, and I'm sitting down at the bridal case, and I'm showing rings and stuff. He pulls up a chair, sits right next to me, right next to my slit.
Mm.
And I'm just like, I'm getting the, the vibe that you don't like to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of like, okay. I finished with this customer, and I just kind of like called my husband. My husband at the time said, the regional manager's here, and he's kind of making me feel uncomfortable. Can you just kind of like come up? And so he drove up to the mall, and he just stood outside the store with his arms crossed, leaning against the railing, staring in. And finally, the regional manager knows him. He goes, who's that? I said, that's my husband. And he goes, oh, well, I need to get going. And he left.
Mm-hmm.
So if he was really there because of business, he would have gone out and introduced himself to said husband.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So long story short, we still have the one lady that is mad at me because, I won't let her have half the sales. She went to the regional manager, and I now he's getting rejected. He's getting rejected. I'm not, no. I can't go have lunch with you because that would leave one person in the store, which is against policy. And of course, I started scheduling lightly around lunchtime, so I couldn't leave the store. And he came to the store one day, and he says, "I got to talk to you out here." And I said, "Sure." And I followed him out to the, parking garage at the door, and he fired me based on she complained that I was doing something that wasn't within the company policy, and I was pissed. And I'm like, "What? What do you got?" "Well, loss prevention thinks it's best if we part ways." "What do they got?" "Show me what you have." "Well, it's best you don't. So basically, he fired me because I wouldn't play.
Right.
And I'm like, I've had where one job ends, another one opens. Or I decide to leave this job, it falls into place, or someone comes in and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you need to come work for me." I mean, that's how my career had been up until this point. And so I stormed off because he wouldn't give me any information. Stormed off, took the key to the store, all that, gave it to her, because she was behind it, grabbed my stuff and left. And I was mad. I was hurt. I was mad. I put all this energy into doing all this, helping not just grow my career, but help Anita's career.
Right. Yeah.
As long as she was doing good, I was doing good.
Exactly.
And here I am. Like, what the heck just happened? And it was like out of nowhere. It made no sense psychically to me, which I wasn't, into the psychic thing at the time. But when you look back, going, well, why did that happen? Because I had another jewelry company in town quickly picked me up. When you look for a job, your mindset's different than when you lose your job. And you loved the job you had that you lost, and now you're stuck in another place. And that's how you look at it.
Right.
That's the wrong way to look at it, but that's human nature. That's your ego. I was stuck in this company, and this particular regional manager, she knew me, had been trying to get me for forever, puts me in a store that they didn't want me. And I'm just kind of like, why did this happen? What is going on? And I was having trouble selling. And I mean, as an empath, and I didn't realize that, an empath thing was helping in my sales, and my intuition was helping me with my sales, but I was a pretty high seller.
Right.
I made the sales, and my gifts that helped with that and did that, but who knew at the time? And I'm like, I can't even sell in this store. I can't sell anything here. And then their quality wasn't quite what I was used to, so I was, a little snobby about it, I guess. But that I needed to learn a little gratefulness attitude,
Yeah.
And so I got moved to a different store, and those people were a little more friendlier to me. But I'd been their competition. They had lost against me on sales going head to head. So now that I'm in their store, they don't want me to be successful.
Right. Exactly.
Instead of going on the, hey, I'm going to be friendly with her because if she needs me to help with the sale, I'm getting half of that sale. Because they knew I could sell. And it was the worst working experience I think I've ever had. And it started with that jerk firing me because I wouldn't play nice. And then here I'm here, and I can't call Anita because she's out dealing with cancer. Last thing she needs is to deal with me. So I just kind of like, okay. So I was probably miserable for a good month, and I'm, working at this jewelry store and not being happy about it, but I'm trying. And I look up, and there she is, Anita, walking in the door. And I was just kind of like, I was so happy to see her because, the cancer scare.
Right.
She had been my mentor for years. She's the one who, I met at the jewelry store over the counter, and she hired me with no store.
Right.
And so I went around the corner, gave her a hug and everything, and she hugs me back, and she's, "Okay, honey, well, go get your things." I said, "What?" She's, "Go get your purse and your things. We're going home." And I'm like, "What do you mean? I got fired." And she's, "No, you didn't. You're coming home. Go get your stuff. Don't make me ask again." I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "Yay." And sorry, I gotta go. Here's my keys. And grab my stuff, and and I have, usually I give 2 weeks notice. That no, 2 weeks notice did not happen there.
Nope.
Sorry, gotta go. And so she had come to town, and she'd gone to the one mall that I started at, that was helping the one manager. And she's like, and we had been closed, and she went to that store. She's like, where is she? And he's like, this is where she's at. And she goes, all right, I'll be back. And she went, got me, and she goes, where are we going? I said, I get my car, and where we're going? She goes, we're going back to your old store. I said, oh yeah? She goes, oh yeah, I'll meet you there. I went, okay. And so the look on that girl's face when I came walking in with Anita was karmatic fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
I learned so much on that journey about myself, about ego, and that standing up and not giving in, even though I got fired, came out better for me in the long run.
Right.
Because she was, because she didn't know what happened, because when you're on medical leave, you're not allowed to communicate.
Yeah, true.
With the stores, yeah. And so when she came back, she called. She goes, where's Carrie? Why is Carrie not working? What happened? And he told her what happened. Because I told this guy everything. So he told her, this is what happened. And then he fired her. And she said, well, she had fired him, obviously before she came to town. Mm-hmm. He got fired.
Yeah.
So they were going to bring in another regional manager. And again, I'm going, okay. Why are you not picking me? So I got back on track. The store's being successful. I had to fix a lot of things that were because she was bullying all the employees and taking half their sales. And I just basically told Anita, I said, you know what? It's her or me. You're going to have to send her to a different store, because she was behind getting me fired. I'm not going to have someone in my store I can't trust.
Right.
Even though a lot of it had to do with the fact that I wouldn't play nice. He was looking for anything to show me that, well, if you won't do this, this is what's going to happen. And eventually, it was funny, she wanted me in Chicago. So when a region opened up in Chicago, I was her choice. Boom. I'm like, really? You couldn't put me where I live already? But she had a plan. And
Right.
Spirit had a plan.
Yep.
It just wasn't my plan.
Exactly.
And from the moment I started with that company all the way through to the company went Chapter 11 eventually, everything was like crazy. I like every 3 years, it's like they move me to another part of the country. They moved me from Chicago to Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then that company, that company decided to buy another jewelry store company. So then I'm overseeing some of those stores. It just led to me just expanding my career, networking, meeting new people, doing things. And then it led to where the company was going Chapter 11, the one other company. And so, I'm like, okay, this is the end of this one now. Because I had left to go work for this other company that they were, that bought.
Right.
And it was crazy. So that one went Chapter 11. And then the old company calls me back and says, hey, hang tight. It was loss prevention, hang tight. I'm like, we're going to liquidation. She goes, we're buying some stores back, and your name's part of the employees that we're going to take back. I'm like, okay. So I'm staying the course. And next thing you know, I'm a regional manager in California.
Yep.
And so I'm in California. Not there 3 months, and that company went bankrupt too. I'm like, what is going on? And then eventually I get sent to Reno, and Reno was a big growth area for me.
Yeah.
It was very good for me. And that's where I started to do my journey.
Right. Yeah, that was a big journey for you.
Yeah. And out in Reno, I learned a lot about myself. I did a lot of personal growth. But that journey started with me walking into a jewelry store after quitting my other job for no reason.
Right.
And experiencing all these weird things along the way.
Yeah.
That when you look back, you could see where, okay, yeah, I've got more, but this is only an hour show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, but I just think everybody should just, because it was, I don't know if this was fun for you, Kim, or just kind of uncomfortable for you, but just to sit down and think back on these times where Spirit has put you on a path, whether it felt comfortable or uncomfortable at the time, and where you ended up. I think it's a great experience to write that down and just kind of revisit those situations and then really see how much Spirit has done.
Yeah, yeah. I had a lot of reflection going through it. It was an interesting journey.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you'd like to add on this one?
No,
Okay.
like we said, it's only an hour episode.
I know. Hour more or less. All right, listeners, thank you for tuning in. Please reach out to us if you have any stories you'd like to share or any subjects you'd like to hear on the podcast. Bye.
Bye. May your light shine bright.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast, Psychic Bent. If you enjoyed Psychic Bent, please like, follow, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. We can be reached on Facebook at Psychic Bent Podcast. Our email address is psychicbent1@gmail.com. May your light shine bright.